Is this travel photography? Artistic expression? Rebellion? Celebration of life events? Demonstration of skill? It varies from picture to picture, thanks to the continued creativity of contributors. Hey, thanks for tuning in to TGIF Geocaching Radio. It's been a while, and I've missed you. Yeah, I've missed you. Well, now I feel like I'm missing a Dear Diary intro or something. Well, in this episode, we're going to cover a bit of news and learn about a few recent, and I mean noted over the last year or two, adventures that geocachers have shared that I thought were great stories to encourage your geocaching excitement. And now, you're listening to TGIF Geocaching Radio, a podcast with a dose of curated geocaching news and adventure, contests and hot topics, and highlighting a variety of experiences that just may lie in wait. And I'm Jeff, aka the Bruce Zero, so stay tuned and let's hang out. Well, it's good to be back. This has been such a busy summer. From our first 25 years of geocaching event near home to Geo Woodstock and Midwest Geobash, and now looking forward to the Fall Fest mega event in September, it's sort of Canada's answer to Midwest Geobash. It's another multi-day camping mega event at a fairgrounds with loads of activities and satellite events. It's aiming to be a fantastic few days with friends and fun and games and prizes and memories. And I've brought Cache the Line on to sponsor Fall Fest and help promote it, and even partner to provide a few extra goodie morsels for attendees, care of Cache Line HQ and Cache Hunters, the first geocaching trading card game. Midwest Geobash was a blast, as usual, but it was also just about the most hot and humid few days camping that me and the fam have ever done. And then it rained. Thankfully not enough to flood the fairgrounds as prior years, but enough to really put a damper on the camping for a number of people in attendance. We reserve a camping spot and stick around the full week to enjoy all the event has to offer. Deja likes finding a sweet spot, watching people enter the fairgrounds, ready to greet everyone with enormous blue eyes. It's a sunshade for the windshield. At Geo Woodstock, I actually got a ping from a family with a couple of kids who spotted Deja and his iCache license and loved him so much they took a selfie. So production time at Cache Line HQ here has been focused on the Cache Line artifact geocoins and card game development and designs for cache hunters. It's been a very creative and production-heavy year, taking up most of my time with inventory creation, order management, shipping, web development, all that jazz. Most nights it's been taking around a couple of hours on average of editing, etching, sanding, painting, gluing, arranging, packaging, and designing, creating documents and slips for deliveries. And without a factory or a production line, it's just been a one-man job. From design to QA to shipping, it's a heck of a learning experience, that is for sure. Anyway, I could go on about all this, but it's probably only interesting to maybe one or two of the tens and tens of people listening right now. I'm excited about the evolution of the Cache Line HQ website, clhq.net, now with an active store for placing orders, and soon with much more content-rich personal profile and dashboard, an ability to enter and redeem codes for puzzles and games, and tracking collections of coins and cards, and more. Oh, there is so much more to come. But for now, let's get back to enjoying this hobby and the core of what geocaching is all about. Finding containers, exploring, and experiencing adventures that give us memories that'll last a lifetime. Alright, so much has happened since the last regular episode of TGIF, so there's lots to cover in this episode. Now let's get rolling. So as everyone is well aware, in the 25th year of geocaching, HQ has planned a whole lot for us to enjoy throughout the year. Early on, they introduced hiding themes, encouraging geocachers to be creative and thoughtful when placing geocaches, and to have a little more fun. They also announced a new locationless geocache, one that's placed in Seattle but can be logged from anywhere. If you post in your log a photo of yourself taken with a natural-ish occurrence of the number 25. That's given us something to think about and watch for as the year goes on. Personally, I haven't done it yet, and I keep forgetting to look for the number, but we have until the end of the year to post a log for this one, and its code is GCA2025. Community celebration events returned this year, given to geocachers to host and provide a special event icon. a miniature version of the next big special event, the Block Party. Where community celebrations are a variant of regular events, block parties are the parallel for mega events. So popular this icon is that the vast majority of annual mega events and special first-timer mega events chose to become a block party. And that means, for the first time, the mega event icon is extra rare this year. In continental North America, there are only 3 published mega events, and one of them is coming up on September 27th, an hour from my home in Ontario. So look for Fall Fest at GCAX1X1 and consider attending. GIF also makes a return in November, the Geocaching International Film Festival. It's been a while, but excitement is brewing, and I know quite a few people, actually, who've been working on and submitting films for this year's festival. Selected films haven't been announced yet, but you can watch for that coming soon on the Geocaching HQ blog and social media. I've also been hearing whispers that the Treasure Troops are working with Cacheline HQ to generate some buzz about filmmaking. And another major news release from GCHQ are Treasures, a virtualized treasure hunt where you're rewarded by a form of digital souvenir for finding geocaches matching a category of treasures. As you unlock the treasures in each set, you can work your way up to additional groups and themes of treasures with different required accomplishments to unlock. And this one seems to be a love it or hate it addition to our hobby, once again. I've got a few treasures unlocked myself so far, but mostly by passively getting them with the greatly reduced geocaching I've been able to do this year. But I love the concept and idea, and it brings a bit of the treasure hunt aspect of geocaching back without the issue of dealing with physical swag in geocaches or the greater number of, micros in the forest instead of larger containers that can actually hold things. Oh, don't get me started. I might get on a rant. All right, so we've got a couple of other major developments recently that have been ruffling some feathers. First off, HQ has taken to reviewing the status of Earth caches, specifically Earth caches with inactive owners. At first glance, that sounds good. If there's no active owner to verify and basically approve people doing the research and work to log Earth caches, that is, after all, the intent of Earth caches, then it may be up for archival. But that also means that quite a few older beloved Earth caches that are highly favorited and targeted may also be on the chopping block. And of course, we've got the issue of adoption. If a cache owner isn't active and isn't responding to communication from anyone, whether community or HQ itself, then they're not around and able to initiate or approve adoption to another geocacher. And HQ won't forcefully change ownership of cache listings without the owner's consent. So that means check up on your Earth caches and be responsive. Or if you know of a great Earth cache and you don't want to see it archived, maybe try to reach out and contact its owner by some other method. Remind them either to show activity, that is post a note or owner maintenance on their caches, for example, or consider adopting out the listing to someone they know. Well, at worst, if one gets archived, hopefully someone else with a reasonable access to its location will be able to visit and republish a new Earth cache listing highlighting that feature. Except that the Earth cache guidelines have also been evolving, so a new listing may not be identical to the old one. In any case, something to keep an eye out for. Are you going on vacation soon and have an Earth cache targeted? Make sure it's not a candidate for archival before you get there. Now, not only are Earth caches facing a bit of a shakeup, but so are my beloved challenge caches. Only just over a week ago, HQ announced a couple of changes to the guidelines for publishing challenge caches. And oh boy, has it sparked some angst. These are the 3 changes, effective August 20th, 2025. Number 1, not chosen is no longer a publishable criteria. As a legacy cache size, this size cannot be added to new caches. Because there will continue to be fewer and fewer caches of this size available as time goes on, it often fails the guideline that there must be plenty of qualifying caches. Number 2, only 1 attribute may be specified per cache challenge. Examples: find 10 geocaches with a GeoTour attribute is generally publishable. Find geocaches with a challenge cache attribute, 10 caches with a GeoTour attribute, and 10 caches with a bonus cache attribute is not publishable. This change is aimed at removing some subjectivity from the review process. Per the guidelines, challenge requirements should be simple and easy to explain, follow, and document. However, reviewers must decide whether a long list of attributes meets that requirement, which has resulted in inconsistency that frustrates both reviewers and players. And number 3, If event caches are specified as challenge criteria, no additional criteria can be used. Examples: attend 10 events is generally publishable. Attend 10 events with terrain rating 3.5 in the state of Washington is not publishable. This is another change aimed at removing some subjectivity from the review process. Event caches are often difficult challenge criteria to review because there are typically not plenty of qualifying caches to meet the challenge at the time of publication as required by the guidelines. Even more scarce are events with additional criteria such as terrain ratings held on specific days of the week, etc. So those are some rules to take in. I love a good challenge cache. If you remember when the moratorium on challenge caches was lifted and a new fresh set of guidelines was enacted, it felt like the ability to be creative was just stripped away from challenges. Mainly that's because they greatly reduced the issue of subjectivity in the review process. Issues like whether one is okay and another is not, and why, or how do you define, quote, reasonably attainable in a world with vastly different local communities and even changing cache landscapes and more. What the moratorium led to was a great increase of accomplishment-style challenges, based on much simpler numbers already tracked in statistics. Quantities always increasing, inability to mistakenly unqualify or effectively reduce your geocaching activity in order to qualify, like avoiding finding some types of geocaches so a ratio won't be negatively affected while you're trying to qualify. I found that trying to locate qualifying geocaches for some types of challenges was actually very fun and added to the difficulty. But other geocachers didn't like the research and work required to determine if you qualified, so bookkeeping became a hindrance factor. Basically, a lot of difficulty of challenges was reduced to making them more accessible, which isn't a bad thing in and of itself, I think, but at the same time, it opened the door to a top 1% style growth of challenge difficulties. If hard challenges can now really only be attained by either traveling or having enormous find counts, then the top 10 or 1% of any region's highly active geocaching community will always be putting out harder and harder geocaches that really only they can reasonably attain, leaving out a vast majority of the general community. And I mean, by HQ's stats, a surprising number of active geocachers have fewer than 100 finds per year, compared to the active minority who are now increasingly crossing the 100,000 mark. Add on to that the addition of Adventure Lab GeoArts for find or smiley quantity, and we're seeing a much larger spread of active accomplishments. All that said, let's check out these new changes. So not chosen as a cache size is already legacy, and being so rare with no new caches being published with the property, it's not such a bad thing that it's no longer an attribute that can be used in a challenge. The size is grandfathered and existing challenges are grandfathered, but I think it's fine that no new challenges can be published referencing that stat. But now, attribute-based challenges are greatly limited, only being permitted one attribute for qualification. I'm not even sure I get the goal of reducing subjectivity in the review process. Usually with a change like this, it came about because a small segment of very, very enthusiastic people fought against a higher up, and so a hammer came down. I'd love to know the situation that led to this change. I know of oodles of challenge caches that are very much themed by the combination of just a handful of attributes at most, which adds to another creative aspect of cache publishing. A couple of examples of unlikely combos that made fun themes are there's one for caches having a stroller accessible attribute and climbing gear. Or how about dogs allowed, boat required, and medium hike? Now on the flip side to that, which likely played a role in the update, is that attributes really are pretty arbitrary. People often place them on caches that are not actually relevant to the cache. Infamously, some desert power trails were often given the scuba gear required attribute, just to help people find and organize them better, although this was before the power trail and challenge attributes were added. So as with any difficult challenge based on attributes, it's actually much easier for people to make them easier by publishing caches and adding highly sought attributes and combinations, which could potentially mislead people using the attributes rightly. But then most every property of a cache listing is arbitrary, so the argument could go for any challenge caches. And so it ends up taking the argument to its inevitable end as a side game to geocaching. How seriously should challenge caches be taken? Should they even be a part of geocaching at all, since caches change over time and your own qualification history may change, like one day seeing an empty spot in your fizzy grid because an owner updated a difficulty and terrain rating, so you no longer qualify. I'm sure as I'm describing all of this, your head is just swimming or exploding because of how crazy this can get. And I agree. One thing's for sure, I don't envy people at HQ who are left having to decide what to do or which steps to take. They want to provide a game that is fun for as many people as possible and ruffle as few feathers as they can, have as little impact to the cost of running the website and servers as possible, and attempt to make oodles of reviewer volunteers' lives easier, not harder, as they are the worldwide community that helps to make sure geocaching is fun and attainable in each of their regions across many, many borders. And finally, on top of only being able to use one attribute if you have an event as a qualifying factor, you can't also require an additional criteria. So no events that require a boat, or events that are recommended for kids, or events in a specific region, or of a certain terrain. I think events have kind of jumped the shark a bit recently, though, as we are having 4 and 5 terrain events published as coffee shop meetups. Just because the terrain isn't being enforced now, so they're up for grabs and filling in new or rare statistics. And that's likely a major contributing factor to this new rule. Events have kind of been a catch-all for irrelevant cache listing properties where they weren't explicitly restricted. Now they're cracking down on reducing the temptation to use events as a way to get challenge qualifications. And just let them be events. Well, what do you think of these changes? Did you even know of the updates? I'll tell you, occasionally visiting the official geocaching forums can be helpful, if only to see the news. But if you stick around, you'd better have some thick skin. The posts, discussions, and debates can really, truly make it hot in there. Oh my. All right, let's flip the script and get some good news up in here. So a while back, geocacher and vlogger Just Carlo published a video highlighting what I thought was a very creative idea for geocache containers. Not only does he describe creating a set of themed geocaches around Avatar: The Last Airbender, but his creativity in building miniature dioramas within the containers was a very neat idea. Check out his video, linked in the show notes.
You know, when you find a creative geocache out there and you have like such a neat experience, you can really appreciate that. Some of the first geocaches that we ever found were these fun, creative, like whimsical geocaches, and we just had such a good experience. And we just wanted to provide that experience to other people looking for geocaches as well. So I spent about off and on over a week just cutting out foam, painting it, stylizing it so that it could look like volcanic rock and stone and concrete and ice. And we tried to decorate them to really reflect what these nations could look like. The Western Air Temple was probably one of my favorites because we found these little pagodas, these little towers. We had them actually attached to the lid of the geocache so that when they were lifted up and when someone opens that up, you would have these towers hanging upside down, just like how they were in the animated series. And since this was intended to be a series of 4 geocaches, they were all kind of tied together with a storyline. All of the cache descriptions read something along the lines of, you know, you're helping Aang to build his alliances to defeat the Fire Nation, and will you join him? If you are, go and to these locations and sign up to be part of his allies. So you would go and you'd sign the logbook.
He also describes another inspiration for being creative. Much like the hiding themes that HQ has presented this year, sometimes events are themed around people creating geocaches for it. He goes on to describe the Fraser Valley Cache Bash.
We crafted these geocaches as part of something called the Fraser Valley Cache Bash. On one day, dozens of geocaches get published at the same time, and geocachers wake up early in the morning to wait and see which ones have gotten published, and all race out to try to be the first ones to find them. The theme for the Cache Bash for 2022 was elements. And so as soon as we heard that, the kids and I knew, like, right away, like, yes, we're going to connect elements to the 4 elements of The Last Airbender, and that's what our geocaches are going to be themed on.
The only thing I think that's kind of a hurdle for cache makers to deal with, obviously, is longevity. I think a lot of owners get discouraged after putting so much effort into cache creation only to find it not equipped to survive weathering, lots of activity, wear and tear, or just general dumb, unfortunate vandalism. I think we've seen the rise and fall of many creative cache hiders over the years. Thankfully, there are quite a few who persist and find a way to keep the creativity alive and build geocaches that can survive, or share how-to so that the community can thrive on ideas. It's a lot of work. Creativity takes time, devotion, and sometimes a lot of money. Well, check out the rest of his video about cache creativity and the status of his avatar geocaches. The link is in the show notes. Another great new announcement came about this year, and this time from Lookout Lisa, who you might know from Cache Advance. Now, I love the variety of social media influencers and topics, and when someone comes up with a new idea for content that really complements a lot of content out there, I think it does a lot for the community as a whole. So check out this little teaser clip from Lisa, who this year launched a brand new podcast called Cache Like a Girl.
Hey there, geocachers and adventure seekers. Welcome to the Cache Like a Girl podcast, where we celebrate the thrill of geocaching through the eyes of incredible women in the game. In this podcast, we'll dive into inspiring stories and fun interviews with women cachers who are making their mark on the map. Whether you're new or a seasoned cacher, this podcast is for you. So if you're ready to take your caching journey to the next level, hit subscribe and get ready to explore the world of geocaching like never before. Join me, Lookout Lisa, and let's make some unforgettable discoveries together.
You can find the podcast on major podcast players with the interviews she's held already. I'm not sure what the gender makeup is of the active geocaching community right now, but if I recall, women are a majority, and it's increasing. But you look at social media personalities like vloggers and podcasters, and women are very much a minority. So it's great to hear a very important perspective from within the community, and I hope Lisa is able to really make wonderful connections and provide an encouraging and helpful series for anyone who might find it relevant. All the best in that new endeavor, and check out her website, cachelikeagirl.com, for all the details. Linked in the show notes. All right, I need to take a minute to recognize some very important people. With very few videos and podcasts produced this year for Cache the Line, their influence has been flying under the radar. This podcast and all things Cache the Line, with all its expenses, time, and effort put into creating a variety of geocaching content, is supported by a band of excellent adventures, care of Patreon, where you can pledge even just a few bucks a month to help me with all the work and costs and content being put out week by week to help promote this amazing hobby of geocaching. Cache the Line is videos and podcasts and news, community swag, and more, now also including Cache Line HQ and the Cache Hunters TCG. And I'm so ever thankful to all the patrons who have supported this brand over the years. So for the first time, I want to give a shout out to all the patrons who pitch in as of this episode, recognizing as well all those who've previously supported. So let's see how fast I can get through this list. Glowworm 77, Yellow Warbler, Bember, Free Spirited One, Brain 21, Comedy Addict, Kantai, Hesker Medic, The Happy Hodag, Finley's Drudge, Deodandrew, Deadliest Cachers, Gas Station Tuna, Emily Renee, EJK PBR, 5GK, FSE Barrow, Geocacher Owen, Heart Valley Girls, Zorkmid, Indaryl, JMJWI, Trexer, Kitty Quest, Geocacher Ken, Cody Cash, Little Black Dog, Happy Feet, Seebeck Tribe, Cash Addict Mel, Ipsimom, Tyva 28, Babushka QC, Double Helix, Nunavut Teody, Rodeo 68, Raj King, Runner Casher, 13 Coach 13, Sims Quest, Redheaded Fury, Lopez Casher, The Geocaching Vlogger, The Pizza Ninja, TTFN Cash, and Tyrone Shoelaces, TTO2, and The Caching Dutchman. Being a patron comes with bonus perks too, from path tags and flash tags to exclusive content, so if you'd consider joining, we would greatly appreciate the support. Go to patreon.com/cachetheline for all the details, and thank you so much for your contributions and support. All right, just a couple more items for this episode, and you can get back to your real-world geocaching. How well do you know the Cache the Line logo? Can you picture it? Can you see one element that has been consistently included in the variety of stylings? Well, that element is the Foon, that Running Man style figure that never seems to get a break always chasing after the flag, the waypoint destination where lies, hopefully, a geocache or something to find. When I started geocaching, there was this trendy pose people love to strike. The plank. Oh, what a time that was. For whatever reason, it was cool to lay stiff as a board in the most odd places, awkward places, daring places, and share photos. Planking. Those were the days. Well, around that time, probably after the phase dwindled down a bit, geocaches, at least in my area, were really picking up on a new trend, the foon. I like to describe it as planking for geocachers. In so many words, it's a one-footed stance capturing a moment of action in a specific location. Sometimes odd, sometimes awkward, sometimes daring. But almost always, people struck the pose as a sort of punctuation mark for the site or for an accomplishment or event. It was a really big thing. So big, in fact, that during my one-year consecutive Geocaching Day Challenge, part of the inspiration for the launch of Cache the Line itself, I struck the pose and took a photo every single day for 366 days to mark the date. I tell you, I got a lot of practice with that pose. Well, I suppose all good things must come to an end. Wait, let me explain. The creator of this term and original pose striker, John E. Darrow, hosted a website glorifying all things foon. It was, of course, listed at foons.com. Sadly, my latest visit to the website out of nostalgic curiosity led to the discovery that the website is no more. It lives on now only in the ethereal existence of the Wayback Machine at archive.org. The latest capture of the website was recorded on February 2024, so for historicity's sake, here is what John wrote to describe the foon. In 1980, I struck a particular pose for a handful of that summer's family vacation photos. I nicknamed it the foon. Foon was a made-up word that just sounded funny to me. It had no connection to any other word. Since then, I have learned that it has meaning, some good, some bad, in a few other languages. It is a Filipino surname, and it sounds like the Japanese for, "Is that right? I see." But that is purely coincidental. On one evening of a 1999 business trip, I was strolling through an upscale mall. Something reminded me of my foon photos from nearly 20 years earlier. I thought it would be fun to do the foon in another photo, for old time's sake. I put the old and new pictures on a web page, and I invited friends to send photos of themselves doing the foon wherever they were. Soon I started receiving pictures from around the world from people I did not know. Is this travel photography? Artistic expression? Rebellion? Celebration of life events? Demonstration of skill? It varies from picture to picture, thanks to the continued creativity of contributors. Where will the foon appear next? What beautiful or strange location will viewers get to enjoy? A TV personality, a cancer patient, government official, and surgeon have fooned. Who will foon next? Whatever the setting, whatever the cause, the uniting element of these photos from different cultures and countries is the foon. Well, the oldest known photo to have this foon pose is reportedly, by John himself, at Athabasca Glacier, the Jasper ice fields, in 1980. You can check out more of his photos as long as they're still available archived on web.archive.org or find the link in the show notes. Farewell, Foon website. And John, your legacy lives on, in one part as a key element of a geocaching enthusiast's brand logo. And it ain't going anywhere anytime soon. And for now, I will leave you with an encouraging story and reminder from a geocacher who offered thanks to a cache owner in Napanee, Ontario. Here is a log that Jane Ho received and shared from a couple weeks back, posted to one of her geocaches. I'm in Napanee, Ontario for the week, so I'm taking the opportunity to go out and find some great geocaches. I didn't understand the importance of properly thanking geocachers who invest time and sometimes even money into creating a new cache until I made my first cache. So I'm officially correcting that by sincerely thanking you for your dedication to this enjoyable game. The future of this game belongs to people like you who promote it by creating new caches and continually maintaining existing ones. Thank you for your work, your time, and your originality. You fully deserve it. Bravo, 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 bravo. And he had a little quote of the day to close. And as Confucius said so well, ladies and gentlemen, a created cache requires a little effort, intelligence, and originality, but provides an incredible amount of smiles and happiness to all those humans who love geocaching and who dare to put their noses outside despite the rain and the cold. And as I hope I've expressed well in this episode, creativity is such a good quality and skill to grow and encourage in this hobby. It keeps energy alive, piques curiosity, charges excitement and the thrill of discovery, and even entertains. But it takes time and effort and a determination to keep at it in spite of hurdles that threaten to dampen spirits. So if you're a cache creator, thank you for keeping this game vitalized. And if you are a very creative cache builder, thank you even more for reminding us of what can be possible in this hobby and opening the doors to different experiences and puzzles and challenges and sites and simply just creative ideas. You really help keep this hobby interesting. So folks, that's all for now. Do me a favor and hit the like button or give the show a thumbs up or a positive review if you enjoy it so it can spread to more people. And if you have any adventures you'd like to share on the show, I'd love to hear from you. Any comments, funny stories, milestones, accomplishments, rants, or adventures, please email tgif@cachetheline.net or phone one in by calling to leave a message at www.cachetheline.net/POI. Links and references mentioned in this episode can be found in the show notes linked in the description. If you'd like to join the band of excellent adventurers who help support Cache the Line and this podcast, please find us on Patreon or by visiting cachetheline.net/Patreon. Thanks for listening. See you next time with more exploration into the wide world of excellent geocaching adventures. And as always, happy caching and excellent adventure. What the moratorium led to was a great increase of what the moratorium